The Belt and Road Summit 2018 in Hong Kong, a chance to appreciate how risk is a key factor in major infrastructure financing. A breakout session featured leaders including Mark Moseley of the G20-led Global Infrastructure Hub, devoted to bridging the gap between the private and public sectors.
Mark, thanks very much indeed for joining us. And really, your specialist subject is about infrastructure finance and the risks that go with that. What would you say are the most important risks that would come to bear where it comes to infrastructure particularly?
When you are trying to do a major infrastructure project and you're trying to involve the private sector in such projects, the allocation of risk and the management of risk is really at the heart of the transaction. If you get that wrong, you're not going to have a successful transaction. And the kind of risks that infrastructure projects have involve things like land acquisition risk, who's responsible for the land. They involve things like demand risk. If it's a highway project, how many people are going to be using that highway? And if you're putting tolls on, what kind of revenues can you get from that highway?
So one would think then, Mark, that regulation in particular, and also the earnings that come from a given project, these are the biggest risk factors that come to bear. And where would Hong Kong sit where it comes to these elements?
Hong Kong has a great deal to offer in terms of handling risk on these major infrastructure projects from a variety of different perspectives. First of all, these kind of projects work best when you have a controlled legal environment, a well-regarded legal, regulatory, and institutional framework. That is something that is very important to prospective investors. Hong Kong has a great tradition in that regard. And then there's also the question of risk mitigation. And that is something where insurance plays a great role. And again, Hong Kong has a particular strength in terms of the depth and the quality of the insurance industry.
What I'd like to do is to then turn really to the arbitration center that we have here in Hong Kong. The arbitration center is obviously one that is specialized in these various areas in this part of Asia. Would you say that from that point of view, Hong Kong stands out?
Indeed, it was the next point I was going to make, in as much as when you're looking at these kind of projects, you're looking at projects that will last decades in terms of their operating life, 10, 20, 30 years. Inevitably, even in the best designed projects, you are going to find that disputes will arise, and you need mechanisms for handling those disputes effectively. For some kinds of disputes, inevitably you're going to have to go to the final solution, which is one of arbitration. And as you've mentioned, Hong Kong here again has a real strength in terms of the quality of the International Arbitration Center.
And when we're focusing on the Belt and Road Initiative, as presented here at the Summit 2018, I mean, would you say that, as far as you can see it, then Hong Kong is developing the reputation that has already been developing over a number of years, but particularly on the Belt and Road?
What is Belt and Road? In essence, in terms of infrastructure, it's a series of connectivity projects. And connectivity projects are amongst the most challenging in terms of the quality of work that needs to be done, the complexity of issues that need to be addressed. Correspondingly, connectivity projects can yield the greatest benefits in terms of providing infrastructure services and an improved quality of life to literally millions and millions and millions of people. But because of that particular complexity of connectivity projects that are in the Belt and Road wheelhouse, then you need these kind of risk allocation, risk mitigation, and dispute resolution mechanisms that we've been talking about. Again, Hong Kong is particularly well positioned in all of these areas.